transformational guide. This channel is dedicated to full power living for mind, body and soul. So here to empower and guide you, get to know yourself better and to really just live your life full power. Okay, fully embrace who you are. So today's video is on fears, expansion, growth and being extraordinary. Okay, now if you're anything like me, are you one of these people that's wanting a change in their lives? You kind of know you're destined for bigger and better things. You're wanting to step out of the mediocrity and live a life that is full power in all areas. There's so many of us that want to expand and grow, whether it's our knowledge, whether it's our business, our bank accounts. But what stops us really from achieving those things, and how can we take ourselves to the level that we so desire? So the main thing that holds us back, of course, is fear. The fear of the unknown, the fear of failure, the fear of change, the fear of not fitting in on how society expects us to be. The list goes on, okay? But the good thing is through fear, it's a temporary state of being, okay? And it's the only way really to deal with it is face on. So once you push through this barrier, small steps at a time, things start really getting in the flow. You know, fears, to understand our fears, we need to find out how they originate in the first place. Okay, and to help us move out of this fear, like ego-based thinking really, like fear is really, it's just based on our most primitive skill of survival as a human being. Okay, so firstly we need to understand kind of what stage of this cycle development we're at, as this affects every aspect of our lives. It affects our needs, it affects our values and our relationships. So when we know this, our needs and values, this will help us grow and develop and see our life differently. Okay, and then we can truly expand into whatever area we choose. We need to be prepared to let go of our fear-based beliefs and values that were ingrained into us really from our parents and culture. We want to let go of these that no longer serve us and get into alignment with our own unique self that reflects who we truly are. Now, you know, I am a great believer of human design, any personal development, astrology, any of these self-awareness tools, self-knowledge tools that really gets an understanding of who you are. I can't tell you enough, explain enough how useful they are in finding out about yourself on a deeper level. But from a psychological perspective, then are our needs being met? Okay, so we need to feel, I'm going to differentiate between the two. So yeah, we have our basic needs and we have our growth needs. So our basic needs is we need to feel emotionally and physically safe. We have to have this sense of belonging. We need recognition and we need acknowledgement. We need to be seen and we need to be heard. And if these needs aren't met, we tend to feel anxious and fearful, as these really are an intrinsic part of our health and well-being. Okay, we need to check in with where there are unresolved conscious or subconscious fears. It's very important to have these established in our lives before moving on to our growth needs. Because the fact is we won't be able to move on to our growth needs unless our basic needs have all been met. So if we look at it from this evolutionary perspective, this is really when we're living in this fear-based way, we're living in our flight or fight mode, okay? It's our basic, most, like our human need for survival. And if we aren't here, and if we're in this space, then we're not able to look for opportunities for our growth needs. Okay, so it's so important to have a very well-established well-being routine that encompasses all these things. If you want to check out, I have a lovely it's like a self-care regime, full power style, of course. You can check it out on my website, or it is on my other videos. So it's just making sure that your basic needs have been met. Then if this is when those are met, then we're able to focus on our growth needs, okay? And this is what we want to do to expand our world. So it's a need here that enables us to live in full alignment with who we are. One where we truly kind of honour our divine being, you know, our soul purpose. We want to have a purpose-driven life where our lives have significance and meaning. One where basically we live it full power. When we have that feeling of significance, that's when we realise that really we want to be a greater service to humanity. We want to change not only ourselves, but for the greater good of the planet too. And when we find meaning in our life, that's when we truly thrive and we flourish, okay? So there's a few, the ability to move on from basic to growth needs depends on some important factors though, okay? So the first one is our level of psychological development of our parents. So were they in survival mode and so they didn't have time to explore their own growth needs? This may make you feel uncomfortable to explore your own growth because, you know, your family may not understand why you want to be different. You may start blaming your parents for the way you are and what they instilled into you, but they didn't know any better. Everyone has their own kind of limits, their own fears, which goes on from generation to generation. Another thing that can stop us is like society and culture. So within this context, you may have not been through the psychological, there's a state called individualization. Okay, so in this society or culture even, did you have the freedom to explore your own values and ideals? They may not have been encouraged as not to upset the stability of the community, because what can happen. You know, people are in their comfort zones. That if you're doing something different, can make them all a bit anxious, and they don't like it, and they may try and stop you. And it's not even like consciously; they're probably not even consciously aware of doing it, but it happens. Okay. Another thing that can to move forward, it's like the level of education you attain. Now, I'm not just saying this is through like this includes your schooling. You know, it could be private schooling, public schooling, but also when you're reading, foreign travel, all of these. If you haven't done any of this stuff, and you haven't gone behind the psychological level of your parents, then you're not going to get to experience what it's like living in other communities, like seeing other cultures or seeing other societies that hold different beliefs and values. You won't know any other way of being apart from the one you grew up in. So it puts this kind of, you know, this limiting belief on you. So the other thing is your courage to explore your full human potential. Like, how comfortable are you with the uncomfortable? It takes real courage, it takes real bravery to explore these higher states of development, especially if you're under pressure from your family, your friends, your peers, because who, through projecting their own fears, want to keep you in the comfort zone. Okay, so it's something very to be aware of, and that you can tell, you know, is this stopping you from what you're wanting to achieve, how you want to grow and how you want to expand. Okay, so the good thing is though, when we're moving through these different levels, you know, our needs, our values and behaviours change as we do. We learn all our limiting beliefs, unfortunately, since we've known them since we were toddlers, children, teenagers, through this kind of conditioning from our parents and society. You know, not having enough, not being good enough, not being loved enough, whatever it's kind of, what's happened in your past, you know, how it reflects into your adulthood. So we've got to master these needs later in life, otherwise we'll not have a strong enough foundation from which to explore these growth needs. There are 7 stages of psychological development. Okay, and if we realise what these are, then we know what our primary motivation is, what's driving us, what do we need to feel in order to achieve this sense of stability and fulfilment. And the 7 stages, we have surviving, which is from birth to 2 years, we have conforming, which is from 2 to 8 years, differentiating from 8 to our early 30s, individuating from the late 20s to 40s, self-actualisation from 30s to 50s, and then integrating from our 40s to 60s, and serving from our 50s to 70s. Each of these levels have specific needs, okay, and specific developments. So we have to make sure that we've mastered each and every one of those, so we're able to move on to the next level. So we're able to evolve and evolve and help others to be of this service, to grow and to expand. Okay, so our first thing we need to do on ourselves is this individuation stage. This is where we really need to uncover our fear-based limiting beliefs, what we've learned from our formative years. Okay, where have our basic needs not been met? The surviving, the conforming and differentiation need, and we need to replace these limiting beliefs with positive ones. Okay, and this is what we call personal mastery. So this kind of mastery helps us to reprogram our mind by establishing these new neural pathways in our mind. Okay, we can ask ourselves, we can have a checklist of things to see where we're growing and where we're limiting ourselves. So we start with a journey. So we start with our past to our present. Where have you been? Where are you now? Then we can look at the potential, the possibility for the future, who you can become and where you want to go. The challenges, the reality, where you are now and the hurdles you have to overcome to where you want to get to. Mastery, how are you managing your day-to-day reality so you can get the outcomes you need and to get where you want to go. And then the evolution, exploring our own evolutionary process, the commitments to continued growth and learning. Okay, so crafting a future then is not about having the best opportunities lie at your feet. It's about understanding our goals and what we want to do to become extraordinary. Okay, finding out really what that is and pouring our heart and soul into it. I hope you have enjoyed today's video. I have written a blog on this. It goes into further detail and some of the resources I have used. So it's I'll put the link in the bottom of the, down there, description. Okay, I hope you are all well. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye for now.